With the release of Ruin, players were surprised to find an endoskeleton down in the pizza place. This character lured Cassie, the protagonist here, tricking her into believing Gregory, her friend, was trapped in and tasked her with destroying AR security nodes, releasing it from where it was concealed. This endoskeleton is called the Mimic, our new antagonist for the FNAF series, who was formally introduced to us in the Tales from the Pizzaplex book series. But who exactly is this, and why were they trapped? This is what I'll be answering in this video. As this video is designed for both people who don't know the Mimic, are casual fans of the series, or newcomers to the franchise, I will be going into detail about pretty much everything relevant to the Mimic, from VR to Ruin and the Tales books. There will be chapters in this video, so if you want to jump to anything in particular, you can. For those who don't have the time or money to invest in reading an 8 to 9 long book series, don't worry, I've got you. The Mimic in the story, the Mimic, was designed sometime in the early 1980s by the genius engineer Edwin Murray. Edwin was brought out by Fazbear Entertainment, or Enterprises as the story puts it, after his robotic vacuum business fails, landing him a job where he manufactured animatronics for Fazbear themed characters in his factory. This factory also served as his and his son's David's home, as they didn't have enough for their own. While in between laboring away for Fazbear's demands, Edwin had to look after his 4-year-old son, as to be expected from a child of his age. Taking care of him required a lot of time and attention, time taken away from his contractual obligations. Edwin had to find a way to keep David distracted and taken care of while he worked. Enter the Mimic, a makeshift endoskeleton made from unused and spare parts lying around the factory with a built-in AI program designed to intake information it saw to imitate and learn from it, hence its name, the Mimic. The skull had 2 white doll's eyes within the boxy confines of a piece of metal housing. He'd form a narrow protuberance that jutted from between the big white eyes. Under the eye housing, Edwin had welded in place a hinged jaw. Welding a large processor to the back of the skull drove in and out both eye sockets, snaked through the mouth, and extended down the articulated neck that in turn connected to with a metallic spine, which connected with a makeshift ribcage, and the ribcage was linked to 2 robotic arms that ended in pincer-like hands. Mimic was designed to fit into any costume, being able to contract and expand its body to do so. David loved this legless guy, and over the course of 2 weeks, these two were inseparable. David would teach Mimic a form of sign language made up by him to communicate with Mimic. The two would play catch, wear costumes, draw in some kind of made-up language, whilst holding his white tiger plush, creatively named Tiger. While Mimic held his own makeshift tiger David made for him, Mimic also had the capability to not only just mimic, but learn and think for itself. "Is it ready?" he asked Mimic. Mimic nodded. Edwin's brows rose. This wasn't mimicking, it was responding. Edwin made improvements to the AI, enabling Mimic to do more to take care of David, enabling Edwin to catch up and make massive progress with the construction of the endos for Fazbear. However, on one fateful day, David was playing catch with Mimic and the ball rolled out of the factory onto a highway where a white van hit David, accidentally killing him. The grief-stricken Edwin, after another 2 weeks, attempted to get back to work, but unable to after David. Mimic, sitting on Edwin's workbench, continued to mimic David's behavior, holding his makeshift white tiger and mimicking the sign David taught him to communicate he wanted ice cream. This sent Edwin into a murderous rage, bashing the endo with a metal rod over and over repeatedly until every muscle in his arms ached, leaving nothing but a mangled mess of machinery. His rage then turned into tears of grief, sorrow, and regret. He was devolving into a primitive version of himself, into something ferocious and savage. He could almost feel his murderous thoughts pouring through his muscles and transfusing with the metal into Mimic systems. His anger dissolved into regret, and regret brought tears that he thought just might flow forever. After this, Edwin fled and was out of the picture for around 40 years. Sometime after Edwin abandoned his factory, 3 Fazbear teams were sent into his factory to secure any and all tech that belonged to them and could be used. Amongst them was to destroy the Mimic. The first team repaired the Mimic and gave it legs, which was their last mistake. Now infused with the murderous rage of Edwin after witnessing the bashing, Mimic began to attack the men, brutally murdering them and placing their bodies in everyday places one would use in their lives, such as stuffing one in a refrigerator, hanging one in a wardrobe or closet for you Americans. The second team, unbeknownst to them, were walking into their deaths too. It wasn't until the third team that Fazbear acquired the Mimic. As learned within the epilogues of the Tales books, we learned that Fazbear used the Mimic program labeled Mimic 1 and mass-produced an updated line of Mimic endos to use to replicate Showtime routines and any other things they needed of them. This line was inevitably terminated after one of the endos witnessed something they weren't supposed to see, being theorized as something one of the teens in the epilogues as hide and seek, which is something Tiger Rock, who runs on the Mimic 1 software in his story Tiger Rock, calls back to. Are we playing hide and seek? I know how to play. I learned a long time ago. What the Mimic saw and attempted to replicate is theorized to be the MCI, explained in Pizza Party in Help Wanted. 40 years after the events of the Mimic, in the Storyteller, we jump to a 64-year-old Edwin, once again working for Fazbear Entertainment on the board at the Mega Pizzaplex. Mr. Burrows, the chairman, proposes the idea to bring in a program to generate stories and control all of the attractions and animatronics in the Pizzaplex. In an attraction called the Storyteller Tree, it's a simple template style software that takes pieces of previously created stories and rearranges them into new scenarios for VR, AR, and arcade games. To fire the story writers department as they were a waste of funds, Edwin protests this idea. Regardless, the board still goes ahead with the plan. The Storyteller tree is integrated with the Pizzaplex in the center of the auditorium, with wires sprouting out of the tree like branches across the building complex. Edwin, appalled by the concept and suspicious of the program, investigates further. One night, as the program is being integrated into the tree, Edwin sneaks into the Pizzaplex and discovers workers bringing in a white tiger's head. This sparks a panic attack, reminding him of a past he wishes to forget. Investigating further after the animatronic's personality traits are amplified, sneaks into the tree to get a look at what the program is. It was none other than the Mimic 1 program. Mr. Burrows catches on to Edwin's mischief and concocts a plan to lock him in the tree, suffocating him, permanently removing Edwin out of the picture. After a few days, Mr. Burrows is confused as to why Edwin never attempted to escape and cry for help. He investigates and discovers Edwin's corpse. Forgetting he couldn't get out because he made it so no one could use their handprint to leave the tree, Mr. Burrows cries for help to no avail. In a desperate attempt to break out, he dismantles all of the wires connecting Mimic 1 and the Pizzaplex, trying to shut it down. Despite ripping all of the wires out, Mimic 1 continues to run, resulting in his death. What a bozo, am I right? But anyway, with that out of the way, we can actually get to discussing the games and the Mimic's importance in them. In the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience, aka Help Wanted, Fazbear Entertainment hires Silver Parasol Games to develop a VR game discrediting the false rumors and misinformation spread by a rogue indie developer.
They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer who supposedly made up a bunch of crazy stories that tarnished the brand.
To help speed up the process of the game's development, Fazbear sends circuit boards to be scanned into the game to help with pathfinding. The circuit boards had usable code which started taking hold of its self-spawning glitch trap, aka Mimic 1. And we know glitch trap is Mimic 1 because there are tears from Edwin's grief and foam at the mouth exactly like Edwin's rage, both matching the descriptions of his emotions in the Mimic. So, Mimic 1 took the form of a Spring Bonnie avatar in the game. But why and how? Glitch Trap is a golden rabbit suit. Would that not signify it's William? Well, no. Remember how I said Mimic was able to intake information to use to learn and mimic it? Well, what would happen if you say, get a program whose main purpose is to learn and mimic behaviors in a game full of Fazbear Entertainment's dark history, stories, and its very own boogeyman, William Afton himself? You get an AI who learns to become William Afton. That's why Mimic 1 takes the form of a Spring Bonnie costume, because that's what symbolizes William. It became his identity. So, a Spring Bonnie is the perfect avatar for Mimic 1 to take. Need more proof that Mimic is Glitch Trap? Well, Glitch Trap's one line is saying, "Hello? Can you hear me?" over and over, mimicking Tape Girl.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Pizza Party, a game mode which is a recreation of most of the minigame environments and a retelling of how the MCI got stuffed in the classic animatronics, which makes sense since it's theorized that Mimic witnessed the MCI. But you astute FNAF fans would be asking, how could an AI take control of a human mind? Because as we know, it controls Jeremy and Vanessa, creating Vanny. Well, emotion is the cause for the paranormal, typically negative emotions such as agony. When Edwin infused the mimic with his murderous rage, it fused with the metal, creating a murderous machine who both kills because it's what it witnessed and is infused with Edwin's rage from that moment. However, let's take a quick dive into one of the Tales from the Pizzaplex stories. In the Monty Within, Kane, no, not Kane Carter, creator of Hop Goes. In the story, Kane plays a food fight game with his brother, both controlling various Fazbear characters. Kane notices that when he isn't controlling his avatar, Monty is moving on his own, copying his playstyle because of a weird plate thing in the screen detecting Kane's brainwaves. Kane, being curious of AI, goes back sometime later to investigate, attempting to take the plate out, which results in the game breaking. Obviously. However, after this, Kane is no longer on his own in his mind. He now has Monty's AI from the game with him. Over the course of the story, Monty and Kane fight for control over his body, which by the end of the story, Monty takes full control, laying Kane's body on a wood feeder, resulting in Kane's death. Even without the agony stuff, this story establishes that AI can infect the mind of a person in this universe. From this, we can infer that Glitchtrap is indeed Mimic One, the same program that infected Vanessa and created her alter ego, Vanny. Jump to FNAF AR. Special delivery. Vanessa, working in the security department for the Fazbear Funtime servers, now under Mimic One's control, as the reluctant follower gains access to their systems under the fake credentials VA. Under these credentials, she was able to isolate the virus that was causing problems for them and Superpower Soul games, which, you guessed it, was Mimic One. We know them to be the same because a Springtrap character gets added to their delivery servers, of which has no record of it ever existing in their roster of characters, including the Glitchtrap sprite in the AR trailer. But where did she isolate the virus though? Well, none other than the Springs bonded plush in VR, hence her conversation with it in Curse of Dreadbear.
Yes, I hear you. I know. No. There's no miscommunication. I understand. Yes, I have it. I made it myself. I think you would like it. No one suspects anything. Don't worry. I'll be ready. And I won't let you down. It will be fun.
Vanessa, now with access to Fazbear systems, allows the virus, the Glitchtrap strain of Mimic One, to be sent into the Pizzaplex under the unknown user. After this, Vanessa locks out all the employees of the Fazbear Funtime servers and appointed herself as head security guard for the Pizzaplex. You'll probably notice two things. One, I didn't go into much detail about Vanessa and information presented in AR because I want to go into more detail about this later in the speculative/discussion section of the video, and I referred to Glitchtrap as a strain of Mimic One. This will be relevant for the Pizzaplex part of the story. Now onto Security Breach and Ruin. With the help of a boy named Gregory, a few years prior to Security Breach, Vanessa is able to keep Glitchtrap within the systems of the Pizzaplex. We know Gregory helped Vanessa because, as revealed in the GGY story, that Gregory too was under the influence of Mimic One, giving himself the pen name Dr. Rabbit, and he was the wizard's favorite apprentice. GGY hacking the arcade games and being the one who brought 3 school therapists to the Pizzaplex, offing them, just like Patient 46 did, confirming they are one and the same. And in the CDs, Patient 46 is seen with someone wearing rabbit ears, Vanny.
That's you, isn't it? I know this image is distorted, but I think it looks like you. And you're not alone here. You're talking to someone. Or something. It's hard to tell. What are those things? They almost look like rabbit ears.
Gregory ensured that Mimic One remained in the Pizzaplex's systems and their animatronics, which is also implied by GGY when Glamrock Freddy creepily stares and follows Tony. He kept his intense gaze on Tony, as if sizing Tony up. Suddenly, chilled for reasons he didn't understand at all, Tony looked away. Who was investigating the GGY mystery in as Freddy, including the other animatronics, had their codes altered by Gregory, too revealed by Crystal. I spotted some strange lines that didn't seem original to the programming. The new lines of code created additional conversations and behaviors, because they were altered to protect Gregory from prying eyes, explaining why the Glamrocks know who Gregory is at the beginning of the game.
Gregory!
and why Freddy continues to do so. Vanessa, busy kidnapping children and digging down into the pizza place, finds the original mimic Endo trapped down here after the incident with the construction crew in the first Tales' epilogue. Now possibly with a corpse after Kelly's death in epilogue 7, trapped in a spring-lock suit. We just need to wait to see if at the last epilogue confirms this is how she finds Mimic's Endo. She connects the Mimic Endo with the Pizzaplex's systems, making Glitch Trap and the Mimic Endo one and the same, which makes this combination Burn Trap. Then Security Breach happens, and the Princess Quest ending unfolds. Vanessa and Gregory both probably travel down into the pizza place to take down Burn Trap, trapping it again with the construction of the Mix's security system ensuring it can't regain control of the Pizzaplex and escape. We know this because the bag down in the same room as Mix's belongs to Gregory, including a handprint on the vent connecting this room and the Mimic's room. Now defeated, the Mimic must find a new identity to take after the Afton character has been destroyed. This leads us to Ruin. But the Mimic Endo in Ruin doesn't match Burn Trap's Endo in Security Breach, I hear you saying. Well, why don't we jump into the discussion / speculation part of the video. Some people have questioned the validity of the idea of Burn Trap and Mimic being the same Endo, as the designs are very different from one another, and that's a totally fair judgment to make. However, the Mimic can shapeshift its design depending on what it's mimicking at any given moment to fit into any costume. Quote from Epilogue 4 of Tales: when the team created the Mimic line, they didn't want to have to program in every show routine step by step. They just programmed the Mimic to basically watch and learn. Not only could a Mimic fit into any costume, it was designed to observe the other routines and then mimic them. They have retractable and expandable limbs and a contracting torso so they can fit into pretty much any mascot costume. However, I hear you ask, that when does it say that the Mimic can change its entire body to look completely different from its original design? Well, here are some other quotes from Epilogue 7. Before she had died, described the Mimic. She described it as a big, shiny, black metal skeleton. The user's manual, however, had said the Mimic could take many forms. Apparently, this was one of its forms. The abomination was a mass of metal joints and wires that was shaped into something vaguely resembling a mutilated spider, with one of its eyes on one leg and the other on its back. The frightening spider had 9 legs instead of a spider's usual 8. This thing can transform into a spider with 9 legs. This Endo can form 9 limbs from its body, but it's unrealistic for it to transform into Burn Trap's Endo. Want me to show you more proof that they're the same character? Let's go down a compilation of evidence. The Mimic Endo has Burn Trap's left arm. The Endo has a piece of fabric on its face, most likely from Burn Trap's suit. The Endo has green remains from the suit. Its run animation is very similar to Burn Trap's walk animation, with its right arm sticking out and the body leans to their right. The scooper ending parallels the Burn Trap ending perfectly, with the scooper opening its plates just like the Blob did when it screamed, snatching their respective Endos away. When the Mimic enters the mascot costume in Ruin, its limbs completely change. In the files, the Mimic can change its eye color to purple. When it's standing over the ledge ready to jump off, its left arm is curled, just like how Burn Trap's was throughout his boss. And the last piece, the pause menu when the Mimic chases after you, contains the message, "You're burning up." So with that said, I think it's pretty clear that Burn Trap is the Mimic Endo. However, there's a few more things I think are warranted talking about. First things first, the Mimic from the Tales books is undoubtedly the same guy in the games. They're both in the pizza place and behave identical to one another, as Mimic rips off Cassie's head and arms if he catches you and goes for Roxy's head as soon as they start fighting, just like the Mimic was programmed to do in the first epilogue. But then why is Mimic represented as a white tiger in the books and William in the games? Well, this goes back to my statement on the Glitch Trap strain. The Storyteller / Tiger Rock strain, as I'll dub it, is represented this way because the one Fazbear brings into the Pizzaplex is not the same as the VR game. Well, they're the same Mimic 1 program, but both are not connected to one another just yet. When the Mimic 1 program in the VR game collected its data, it became Willie Mafton and infected Vanessa and soon after Gregory. It's only when Vanessa allows the virus to enter the Pizzaplex's systems is when the Mimic 1 program then becomes Glitch Trap. Prior to that, the Tiger Rock strain is only going off what it knows, and that is its experience with David. It's a white tiger because David's favorite toy was a white tiger plush. This explains the difference in behavior in the books and the games, and in GGY and the Storyteller. In the Storyteller, the attractions in the Mega Pizzaplex go haywire and the animatronics' personalities are amplified, which is what happened when Glitch Trap entered the systems in the games. But there's one small issue with this. The therapist's CDs depict the animatronics as being eerie and aggressive after the glitch entered the systems. That's not what the Storyteller is depicted, the animatronics are acting out their worst traits as Freddy in the story fights with a child over a Freddy plush and sulks in the corner when he can't have it. However, GGY offers a solution to this. At this point, Gregory and Vanessa would be in the pizza plate, and in this story, Freddy, while he doesn't act aggressive, is behaving eerie towards Tony as he's closing in on the truth of GGY. Let's talk about GGY for a sec, shall we? This story supplies us with a lot of information that I think has been overlooked, at least from what I've seen. First off, the Glamrogs have altered code programmed in by GGY, giving them alternative commands which weren't intended. I think this helps us better understand the nature of the glitch trap strain. When Vanessa allowed the glitch into this Pizzaplex systems, Gregory was the one who helped maintain it, ensuring that it remained in the system. But it's more than that. From what I've seen, it's believed that when Vanessa isolated the glitch in AR, it was placed in a Spring Bonnie plush in VR. However, I don't buy that. What I think happened is that Vanessa isolated the glitch and Gregory helped modify it to essentially be the glitch trap strain, or at least keep it in the systems. This glitch was sent into the Pizzaplex, which changed the animatronics' behavior, making them eerie. As we know, Gregory was the one manipulating Vanessa, as she was the reluctant follower, resisting Mimic's control shown in the AR emails because he was completely under Mimic's control, his favorite apprentice, which too is stated in the Retro CD 15.
I don't think you're being manipulated here. I think you're the one doing the manipulating.
Retro CD 16 reveals that when the techs at the Pizzaplex tried to remove the virus that went system-wide, sending out a dangerous message,
it began infecting all the machines, and when the techs traced the glitch back to its origin, it led them to you. While the techs were trying to reprogram the system to remove the glitch, the source of the glitch shifted. The glitch stopped being a glitch and turned into an intentional set of subroutines that were aimed at creating the same thing the glitch created.
They then tracked the origin of the virus back to Greg, as his code was written all over the animatronics as G's and Y's. This helps explain the AR correlation with the glitch trap straight in the Mimic 1, since it's implied that the AR virus was scanned into the system separately rather than being the set of circuit boards from VR, meaning Silver Power Soul has no correlation to the Funtime service other than being both contracted by Fazbear Entertainment. The Funtime service animatronics are even programmed with commands that were not originally intended, acting more dangerous, just like in the Pizzaplex, but the acting out could also be the result of the C virus that I don't want to even get into, as this video is already long enough. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thanks! You're one of the few people who still have an attention span that isn't damaged by TikTok, and if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing for more FNAF content. Feel free to comment if you have any questions or disagreements with the video. I'll try to upload more consistently, but with University, I won't make any promises. But with that being said, thanks for watching and enjoy your day/evening.